On June 3, 2026, something happened in the United States House of Representatives that had never happened before. A bipartisan majority, including 4 members of Donald Trump's own Republican Party, voted to direct the president to end his war with Iran. The vote was 215 to 208. Cheers erupted on the House floor. Speaker Mike Johnson had tried to stop it. 2 weeks earlier, he had abruptly sent House members home on recess when it became clear the resolution had enough votes to pass. He thought he had buried it. He was wrong. The 4 Republicans who crossed the line, Thomas Massie of Kentucky, Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, Tom Barrett of Michigan, and Warren Davidson of Ohio. Their names are now in the official roll call of the United States House of Representatives. Trump's response: he called it a meaningless vote. He called the 4 Republicans bad. He said it was unpatriotic. But here is what Trump did not say. He did not say the vote was wrong. He did not say Congress doesn't have the authority. He said it was meaningless. And that word meaningless is exactly what this episode is about. Because whether this vote can actually stop the war is one question. Whether Congress has the constitutional right to try is a very different one. Welcome to Hidden Agenda. To understand why this vote matters, you need to understand how this war started. On February 28, 2026, President Trump announced that the United States had joined Israel in launching major strikes on Iran. He called it the beginning of a campaign to destroy Iran's nuclear and military infrastructure. He did not ask Congress. He did not consult the leadership of either party. He did not invoke any emergency the law recognizes as justifying unilateral presidential military action. He simply announced it. The Constitution of the United States is unambiguous. Article 1, Section 8 vests the power to declare war exclusively in Congress. The President is Commander-in-Chief. He commands the military once war is authorized. But the decision to go to war belongs to the legislative branch. This is not a technicality. It is the foundational principle that separates American democracy from the kind of executive monarchy the framers explicitly designed the Constitution to prevent. The War Powers Resolution of 1973, passed in the wake of Vietnam, created a specific mechanism. If a president commits troops to hostilities without a declaration of war, Congress must authorize it within 60 days, or the president must withdraw. That 90-day clock expired on the Iran conflict weeks ago. Trump has not sought authorization. Congress has not provided it, and the war continues. 4 times the House has tried to pass a War Powers Resolution. The first 3 failed. The 4th, on June 3, 2026, passed. And the vote count tells a story that goes beyond the resolution itself. Look at the trajectory of these votes. March 5th, the resolution failed 219 to 212. Only Massie and Davidson crossed party lines. May 14th, ended in a 212 to 212 tie. Massie was joined by Barrett and Fitzpatrick, but Davidson voted against it. The 3rd attempt was killed before it reached the floor. Johnson sent everyone home. June 3rd, passed 215 to 208. All 4 Republicans voted yes. Each time the resolution has come up, the number of Republicans willing to cross the line has grown. That trajectory is not a coincidence. It reflects mounting political unease within the Republican caucus about a war that has dragged on for more than 3 months, cost the American taxpayer over $100 billion, rattled global markets, and produced no clear victory and no clear end date. Tom Barrett told CNN he was not sure it was a meaningless vote. That is a Republican member of Trump's own party publicly refusing to use the president's language to describe the vote he just cast against him. Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, a centrist Republican from a competitive district, also voted yes. These are not far-right libertarians. These are mainstream Republicans who have concluded that the political and constitutional costs of this war now outweigh the cost of breaking with their president. And Speaker Johnson knew it. That is why he tried to stop the vote from happening in the first place. Trump called it meaningless. Johnson called it weakening the president's hand. Brian Mast called it a stupid political vote. So let us be precise about what the resolution does and does not do. What it does, it places the House on the official record as directing the president to end hostilities with Iran unless Congress authorizes the conflict. It is a formal, permanent expression of congressional judgment that this war lacks the constitutional authorization it requires. What it does not do, it does not have the immediate force of law. As a concurrent resolution, it is not sent to the president for signature. It cannot by itself compel Trump to withdraw American forces. For that to happen, the Senate would need to pass a similar resolution, which it has so far failed to do, and then the legal questions about whether a concurrent resolution can override a president's commander-in-chief authority would need to be resolved, potentially by the Supreme Court. Representative Jared Huffman put it clearly, "We're inching closer to having both chambers of Congress declare this an illegal war. That is the significance of June 3rd. Not that the war ends tomorrow, but that the constitutional case against it just got significantly stronger." And here is the detail that makes Trump's meaningless characterization so revealing. The administration has itself questioned the constitutionality of the War Powers Act. If the act is unconstitutional, why does Trump need to dismiss the vote under it? If it is meaningless, why did Johnson try so hard to prevent it? Here is the deeper story the June 3rd vote reveals. The Iran war has become the most significant test of the constitutional war powers framework in the modern era. The Constitution gives Congress the power to declare war. The War Powers Act gives Congress the mechanism to enforce that power when a president acts unilaterally. And the Trump administration has done something previous administrations only hinted at. It has openly challenged the constitutionality of the War Powers Act itself. If the administration succeeds in that argument, if courts ultimately agree that the president can wage war without congressional authorization, then the war powers framework that has governed American military action since Vietnam effectively ceases to exist. Every future president inherits that precedent. Every future war becomes easier to start without a vote, without debate, without accountability. The June 3rd vote is Congress pushing back against exactly that outcome. It is saying formally, on the official record, that the legislative branch has not ceded its constitutional authority over war, that the president does not have unlimited military power, that there are limits, and that those limits are enforceable. Whether the courts agree, whether the Senate acts, whether Trump ultimately backs down, all of that remains to be seen. But the vote exists, the record exists, and every escalation that follows, every casualty, every dollar spent, will now be measured against a Congress that formally said, "We did not authorize this." 3 possible paths. Path 1. The Senate passes a similar resolution. That would mark the first time both chambers of Congress have formally directed a president to end a military conflict. The constitutional and legal pressure on Trump would intensify significantly. Several Republican senators have already broken with Trump on Iran. Whether that coalition can grow to pass a concurrent resolution on a final vote is the critical question. Path 2. The courts intervene. If Trump simply ignores the House resolution, as he almost certainly will, constitutional litigants could bring the question to federal courts, which now have a documented House vote to cite as evidence of congressional will. Path 3. Trump ends the war anyway. He has repeatedly claimed a deal with Iran is imminent. If a peace agreement is reached before the Senate acts, the resolution becomes moot, but the precedent it sets for the next conflict, the next president, the next war started without a vote remains. The June 3rd resolution is not the end of this story. It may not even be the most important chapter, but it is the moment when a bipartisan majority of the People's House looked at an unauthorized war that has cost $100 billion, dragged on for 3 months, and produced no authorization, no declaration, and no end date, and said, "We did us. Enough. We did not vote for this war, and you do not have the authority to fight it alone." 215 members of the United States House of Representatives, 4 of them from the president's own party, all of them on the record, all of them saying the same thing: this war was not authorized by Congress. It should not continue without authorization. Trump called it meaningless, but a president who had nothing to worry about would not have called 4 members of his own party bad. A speaker with nothing to fear would not have sent everyone home 2 weeks early to prevent the vote from happening. And an administration confident in its legal authority would not simultaneously argue that the law being invoked against it is unconstitutional. The vote happened, the record exists, and the war continues. Every day it continues without authorization is another day the constitutional question deepens, the political pressure builds, and the 4 Republicans who cross that line are joined or not by more. Subscribe to Hidden Agenda, because what happens in the Senate next is the chapter you cannot afford to miss.